So it was requested by a few people that we do a video showing all of our parts and accessories, our extensions, nozzles, filler caps, the difference between them, when to use one versus the other, when you need an adapter. So we're going to go through all of that in this video. So it's important to know here that all of these parts can be used on the Model A as well as the Model M2400. All the extensions and the nozzles are all going to be interchangeable for that. It's just important to know if you have the adapter that's going to come on the front right here. If you have the M2400, you are not going to have that adapter. So if you want to use any of the female parts, you're going to have to get that adapter. Otherwise, you can do it all with the male parts. All right, so that brings us into the filler caps. So most people are probably familiar with the P118. It's our standard filler cap that has chemical resistant seals in it. So it's going to be good with your acetones and your brake cleans especially. The S118F, that's going to be good with the same chemicals, but this is specially made for our Sure-Fill machine. So that's going to be your quick connect cap. And then one a lot of people aren't super familiar with is the P156. So it's basically a P118, but instead of going and grabbing your wrench every time, you can do this by hand. Nice and easy. Again, you don't have to over tighten these. Hand tight is just fine as long as it's not leaking air. It's that easy to get it off. So these are a common one that people like to replace their 118 with. Now we're going to go through the adapters. There's only 3 adapters here. Your standard 307, 307C, and a 307PT. So the 307 works with all of our female nozzles. So that's what's on here right away. You just screw your female nozzles right onto there, as you'll see later in the video. Then the P307C, which is right here, that's going to be an adapter that is a female 1/8 inch NPT. Then the 307PT is a male 1/8 inch NPT adapter. So if you are going to change your adapter, it's very important that you depressurize your sprayer first. If you take this off with a 9/16 wrench and it's pressurized, all of your material is going to come out of there, and if it's just pressurized with air, it's going to come out of there pretty fast. So be careful with that. Make sure it is depressurized before you change it. All right, next we got nozzles. So we're going to start with the female nozzles. So these are going to be nozzles that you need to use the P307 adapter with. So for starters, you have your 301 and 302. So what these are going to be your standard one that comes on your Sure Shot when you order it. The only difference between the 301 and the 302 is going to be the little brass piece in there, which I will show you in a moment. Then you have the 302B and C, as well as the 501. So we'll kind of go through, I'll show you the patterns of all of them. Put a little something black back here so you can actually see the pattern when I'm spraying it. All right, so this is going to be the standard 302. So there's a spray pattern on that. That's one most people are familiar with. So now all you have to do to make it a 301 is twist off the nozzle, and there will be a little brass pin in there. So then you can put that right back on, 1/2 inch wrench, make it nice and snug. And the spray pattern on that is more streamlined than the misting of the 302. All right, this will be the 302B. This is going to be a coarse stream. So there's a pretty good amount of material coming out of that one. This is the 302C. This is going to be an extra fine mist. So now we have a 501. This is going to be a little bit different than the other ones. This is going to be a flat spray. So I'll see if I can get an angle here to see how flat that is. All right, next we're going to go through all the extensions. So we'll start with the 3-inch extensions. So here we have the 320, the 344, and the 345. And we'll show you how each one of those connects to your sprayer and kind of the spray pattern on them. All right, so for the 320, it's going to look like this. And you're going to make sure your washer's on there. Twist it on just like you would a normal nozzle. 1/2-inch wrench. And how that one sprays, basically like your standard nozzle. P344 hypodermic extension. So it's almost like a needle on the end there. Good for getting into very specific spots and pretty powerful with the spray. Last for the 3-inch extensions is the P345. This is going to be a pin stream extension. So it's sort of similar to the P344, but I would think this one's a little bit more durable. You can kind of bend this if you need to, but if you were to drop it, there's a good chance it could bend. Not the end of the world, but if you had to get into a really tight spot, this would be great. This is a top seller as well. Now, an important note for the P325, the 6-inch, is this can only be used with your female nozzles that we make. Now we have a 6-inch extension, the P325. It's going to look like this. It's brass, rigid, no flex to it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your nozzle off. You can keep your washer on. Replace it with the extension. And then you're just going to bump your whole nozzle and your washer, another washer out. Tighten that on, and now you have a nice extension, 6-inch extension on there. All right, the next 3 are 12-inch extensions. So the 3 of these can also only be used with the female nozzles. So that's going to be the 337, the 335, and the 330. So we'll start with the 330. So this is a growing favorite. So a top complaint we had was that you cannot use our sprayer when it's upside down due to the siphon tube being at the bottom. So you're essentially going to put that on there, bump your nozzle to the end, and now you can spray any direction that you want. So you can spray completely upside down with it. You can go any which way that you want. And when you're done, it'll go right back to the shape it was in. So it's kind of nice for getting into tight spaces. And if you're under a car, possibly instead of using it upside down or even cranking it like that, you can just go in there, put your nozzle right to the end. So the next one will be the 335. That is a solid brass one. So very similar to the 6-inch that we showed before, but this one is bendable. I don't know if you can see that. So you can kind of bend it. If you bend it too far, it's eventually going to kink. That's why we made this one. But it's nice if you have to get a slight bend in there. Maybe you don't want that and you want a solid piece on there. And then lastly, for the female nozzle of the 12-inch, it's going to be the 337. A lot of people use this for air. So they'll just spray their, or fill their sprayer with air, and now you have sort of like a WD-40 tube. So the spray pattern on that, just like so. So that's going to be it for all of the extensions that are good with the female nozzles. All right, so here we have all of the male nozzles. So these are not going to need the 307 adapter. It's just going to thread right into the end of the sprayer. If you have an M2400, you can take off the 602 and swap it with any of these. So the ones we're going to talk about here are the 305, the 550, the 567, the 602, that's the adjustable nozzle. That's going to come on the 2400 as is. And then the 707. So I am going to put each one on the sprayer, show you how the spray pattern works. And another reminder, you cannot change these out while this is pressurized. As soon as you take the 307 off, it's going to start leaking fluid or air, just like that. So it's important for safety and so you don't lose all of your fluid that you depressurize the sprayer out of here before you put these on. All right, first up for the male nozzles, we have the 305. So the 305 is going to be a fine spray nozzle. So all you're going to do to put that on is have nothing on the front, 9/16 wrench. It's going to be a pretty flat nozzle. And here's the spray pattern. So it is a pretty fine mist. All right, next we have the P550. This is going to be a flat fan spray. So that pattern is going to look pretty flat on there. Next up is the 567. This is very similar to the 550, but it's more coarse of a flat spray. It's just not going to be as fine of a mist. This is the very popular P602. This is going to be an adjustable nozzle. So an important thing here for troubleshooting, this is going to come on your M2400 as well. If you unscrew this, it's going to make your adjustment. So if you're too far threaded out, it's probably going to leak. There's only so many threads on there, so if you only have one thread on, the chemical only has one way to go, and it's going to come out the back. Another thing, if you over tighten this cap, it could break this plastic piece. That's a 922 spinner. We do sell those in packs of 10 as well. If it cracks that, it's going to start leaking from all over on this nozzle. Very cheap part, easy replacement. And lastly for this one, if you want a ton of material coming out, a lot of people will pull this out with a pliers, and now you have full stream, as much material as can come out of the can as possible at one time. So we'll show you how this one works. So it's all the way tight right now. So it's going to start out sort of a mist. And as you unscrew it, it's going to be more and more powerful and be more of a stream. So at some point as I keep twisting this, it could start leaking from the threads. But there is the 602. Like I said, that's going to come standard on your M2400 or your A1002. Last for the male nozzles is the 707. This is what we call an extra fine mist nozzle. So the spray pattern on that. So it's a pretty fine mist. Sort of similar to the 305, but even a little bit more fine than that. So next we're going to do all of the extensions that work with the male nozzles. So there's going to be 3 of them. It's the 331, very similar to the one I showed you before, but there's 2 female ends on it. The 338, very similar to the other 6-inch one I showed you, but again, it's meant to go with the male versus female nozzles. And same with the 339, 12-inch, meant for male nozzles. So the 331 is going to be the only one that you need to use your 307 adapter with. So just like the other one, it's going to twist on there. The only difference is instead of bumping your entire nozzle out to the end, you can do a male nozzle like the 602, thread it in here, and now you're good to go on that. You can flex it, put it however you want. All right, next we have the 338. You'll notice I took the 307 adapter off. As I mentioned earlier, you are going to want to make sure this is depressurized before you do that. So you'll put your washer on, threads right in there, and then you can put any of your male adapters on the back end there, which I can actually grab and show. So I'll grab a 602. 602 will go right into there and threads right in. All right, last we have the P339. Pretty much identical to the 6-inch version. Just thread that right on there. And there you go. And just like the 12-inch we showed before, you can get a little bit of flex in there. And that's going to work for all of your male nozzles. That's about it for this video. Hopefully you have a lot of questions answered on your sprayer, the accessories, the filler caps, the nozzles, the extensions. You're always feel free to contact us with any more questions about them. We make them in-house here in Wisconsin, all made in the United States by American workers, and we are proud to do it that way. These are always in stock. You never have to worry about a lead time on any of these parts. We have them here ready to ship next day.